Well, it was very tragic. We were 3 months separated. Emotionally, I was all over the place, just a train wreck. Seriously, just felt miserable all the time. Once I got started learning how to communicate, I started to respond in a way that was more masculine, more clear. She really appreciated that. My wife's chasing me. We're laughing, we're joking, kissing, and all types of stuff.
You just got to be coachable.
If you're new to the channel, my name is Griffin, and I help men restore their marriages or their long-term relationships when their wife or their lover has no interest in restoring the marriage or the relationship. Right now, marriage is under attack on all 7 continents where I have clients. Help me support marriage restoration or long-term relationship restoration, especially when children are involved, by right now subscribing to this channel. And for you, press the little bell icon so that as I record new content, YouTube won't suppress that and you won't miss it. Today, I have an amazing guest, and I can't wait for you to hear his journey from the 0 state that he was whenever we met him to his version of the hero state today. Michael, welcome to the program.
Thank you. So glad to be here.
Very, very much our pleasure as well. So I just want to jump right in here. Where were you at in your relationship and also maybe in your life up here and here?
Oh, wow. Well, it was very tragic. In my relationship, we'll start with that. With my wife, when you met me, we were 3 months separated. So fairly newly separated. However, there were a lot of things that was going on in that time frame. I recently found out that she was doing some things that was unpleasing to me. However,
Right.
learning about it was just a symptom of the marriage. So emotionally, I was all over the place, which is probably why she was all over the place as well. Because I was
Right.
just a train wreck. Seriously, just felt miserable all the time. It was sometimes I didn't want to get up out of bed and just at all, and obviously now that's not the right way to go about things.
Were you dealing with depression?
I was dealing with a whole bunch of depression, a whole bunch of anxiety. It would just kept every single day just kept flooding in. It almost seemed like I just was never going to get a break from it.
Yeah. And had you been dealing with that before the separation, or that was kind of just during the 3-month separation?
Honestly, yes, I was dealing with a little bit of depression and anxiety before the separation, and that could have very much been the straw that broke the camel's back.
Right.
The depression and the anxiety just from different life things going on, and not
Yeah.
taking the time to step back and actually see my wife.
Yeah, 100%. I totally understand that, because I literally can relate to that. What would you say whenever we met you, all the things that you're dealing with emotionally, you're in a separation, how would you describe the state of the relationship?
At that time,
Yeah.
the state of the relationship was just very it was awful. My wife was at that time doing a lot of gaslighting. She would say a lot of things like you know this, it might not be forever in terms of the separation. It might not be forever, but for
Mhm.
right now it has to go this way. She's saying things like she loves me but she's not in love with me, just the typical things that most of our wives would say when they're not happy and they're ready to go.
This may or may not be something that is true for you. My wife was telling me the same thing. My wife was telling me that this separation may not be forever. She was literally gaslighting me, not because she's a bad person, not because she intentionally would say, I'm going to gaslight him today.
Right.
But it was more so because she knew I was in a state of depression. She knew I was distraught, that it was, and I wasn't happy about her decision to continue the separation. But she's telling me this might just be temporary. And at the same week she's saying those words to me, she is filing a divorce case in secret.
Yeah.
So, is that maybe similar to your situation?
Absolutely. So, the exact same, literally the day that I actually spoke with, I believe it was Tyler, my wife said the exact same thing. She was saying that it's not going to be forever, but just for right now. And after that, moments or hours after that, I actually found her with her affair partner at the time. So it
Wow.
was so just crazy, just how things were, and just what I was hearing, and it honestly, Denver didn't look very well at that time.
I appreciate you being vulnerable to bring that up, because there, for the hundreds, maybe tens of thousands of men that'll be watching this in the coming weeks, days, months, and years, is that a lot of times they think, well, if my wife has an affair partner, whether it's a physical affair, emotional affair, a sexual affair, it doesn't really matter. So many people get the mindset of, well, this is the reason my relationship is ending. This is the reason that my marriage is over. Guess what? An affair partner, whether it's emotional, physical, sexual, intimate, it doesn't really matter. An affair partner is never necessarily an obstacle to relationship or marriage restoration. All an affair partner is simply the fruit of a failed marriage. And if you understand how to actually position your leadership to not just change yourself, but to also lead her back to change, really good people have emotional affairs. Really good wives, really good women have physical and sexual affairs. Now, what's different about a woman when it comes to that is men need a place to have sex when I first meet them. Women need a reason. And so why do I bring that up? Anybody right now that your wife or your lover or the mother of your child, if you found out that she's having an affair, emotional, physical, sexual, it doesn't really matter. Don't listen to your friends telling you to let her go. Don't listen to your friends saying once a cheater, always a cheater. Listen to what we're telling you here. Step up and take ownership of your leadership and realize that an affair partner almost always is because you had a lack of leadership that contributed to 70% of the men in the Divorce Stoppers program find out either before or during the 7-week transformation process that their wife has an affair partner. Now that's that find out. If 70% find out, what do you think the percentage is that it's actually happening? So it's probably closer in the 90s. So the reason that I bring this up is for the following reasons. If that's where you're at and you've given up hope and you have some morons, some idiots that are giving you advice, because of this, you need to let her go. Here's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with somebody else that was in a failed relationship, most likely, or their parents were in a failed relationship. They experienced pain. They didn't know what to do to fix that, so they gave up, and now they're giving you the advice. So let me paraphrase that just to make sure, in case there's anybody else out there that didn't get what I just said. Do not listen to some idiot that was on a ship that was going down, that drowned. You want to listen to the survivors, the ones that knew how to live. And that's what we're doing these calls for. So with that being said, so you found out that there was some issues going on, and you found out that the fruit of a failed relationship had grown on your tree. So where were you at in the separation up here and here? And where was she at in the process of maybe pursuing divorce, if she had mentioned that whenever we met you?
Okay. So at the time when I found everything out with the affair partner, it honestly just made my depression a lot worse. It made my anxiety like shoot through the roof. At that time, I honestly just thought that it was pretty much just completely over. It was so bad. And honestly, I don't want to say it's difficult to remember that, but just because we're just in such a great place now, and I'm in such a great place now, Lee, and but it seemed like it was hopeless. My wife, she hadn't brought up divorce, but it was full separation. Like she was out of the house. She was, at first we were doing in-house separation, and then she decided to leave and go to her sister's house. And so it just seemed like everything that I was doing, even when I joined my first program, everything that I was doing, it just seemed like it was doing nothing but just pushing her away.
Yeah, pushing her away. Makes sense, because that's what's normal. So you guys did in-house separation, and then your physically separation, and now she has a boyfriend. So for her, in her mind, is it safe to say that in her leadership was saying, game over, I'm done with him?
Yes.
Okay, so you guys are physically separated. She has an affair partner. She found a boyfriend. She's ready to move on. Basically, for all intents and purposes, up here and here, she's done. And you're sitting home depressed because you don't really know what to do. However, before you met us, you mentioned earlier that you had tried another program. So tell us about what was working in that program, what the program was, what wasn't working.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So what was working for that program? It had me dive deep into myself, and see, start to change little things about myself, start to become more of a man of my word, things like that. However, it didn't necessarily teach me how to interact with my wife. It
Right.
just taught me how to do a lot of like the soul searching and everything like that. But it didn't really teach me how to make my wife feel, like she's been seen and valued and understood. I didn't know how to do that at all.
What was that program and how long were you in it?
So that program was actually Authentic Men, and I was
Mhm.
in that program for, I want to say, about 4 months before I saw your program, and was like, I'm gonna get on
Right.
board with Denver. Again, it taught me how to, put down my boyish ways, tendencies, and
Yeah.
pick up more of the men tendencies and everything like that. But
Right.
again, it didn't really teach me how to just be with my wife, interact with my wife, have fun with my wife again.
So for you personally, what was missing from that program, if I were to say specifically what was missing from the program, you're kind of already describing for you what was missing from the program was it was teaching you how to make changes yourself. But am I correct in paraphrasing for you in your situation and your circumstances? It wasn't teaching you how to build intimacy through communication, which would also lead her to change.
That's correct. I'm a very hands-on person, and I need to be able to put what I know into action. And I wasn't able to do that. I was just doing things for myself and not really
Mhm.
for the marriage.
Right, I understand with that. So, were you still depressed when we met you? If you'd been in that for 4 months, were you still struggling with depression when we met you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Really?
Uh, yeah, I was still very much depressed. I was still anxiety shooting through the roof because remember when I met you, that's when I found my wife with her affair partner. So it just
Mhm.
magnified things.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And of course, I can understand the depression if you're trying something for 4 months with the intentions of doing it to restore the marriage, but you're not. I mean, did you see any progress when you were going through that other program and the marriage restoration, or no? Or did things get worse? They stayed the same? What was the results of that?
So I saw improvements in myself, um, but not in my marriage. It definitely seemed like things were getting worse, almost getting more upset that I was taking the steps and trying to better myself. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but
Well, it,
that's
it does. It really does. And let me explain. I intentionally in the divorce topics program on purpose make sure that we have a program that's set up so that I think it's selfish if you're in a relationship with someone that you love for you to move forward into your best life and leave the woman that you love behind. For me, it's selfish. It's not wisdom. And as you make changes to better yourself and you're not taking her with you, it is very normal for her to resent your changes. So, in other words, I think the reason that we get so many students from other programs is because the other programs are teaching you go make these changes, but it doesn't teach you how to help her change. And
yes,
here's the thing, if a woman wants out of a relationship, if she doesn't change at the same pace you're changing, she'll resent your changes and it literally will make the marriage or the relationship worse. There's no benefit to the marriage. You may not be depressed anymore sometimes. Sometimes those programs, it's what I say in some of my videos. If it might help you get your biceps bigger, it might help you grow 3 more inches down here. But what good is that if it's not helping you with the reason that you joined? If the goal was marriage restoration, what good is all of that if you can't use this or use that? You know what I'm saying? They save it
absolutely.
for the next relationship. And we know statistically, if you don't fix this relationship, the same stuff is going to come out in the next relationship. So fast forward, you ended up finding us on YouTube. You're in another program that was making things worse, and you booked a call with my team. What caused you to actually request to become a student of the Divorce Stoppers program? What made you think this is the right thing for me?
So honestly, it was the testimonies like what we're doing now. Just seeing a lot
Really?
of great men. Yeah, yeah. Honestly, just seeing a lot of great men who they said that they were in the same spot that I was in currently at that, in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just, I remember telling myself, well, It's so weird, you know. But I remember telling myself, well, maybe I can get as good, and maybe I could really restore my marriage in a way to where maybe I'm that guy on the in the camera, and I'm that guy who was, you know, who was able to tell my story, and I was here, and now I'm, you know, doing much better, you know. So
Woo! I love
yeah,
it.
you know, so seeing my brothers that went through it, that's what did it for me. You know, I didn't know anything about confirmation bias until coming across your videos. The real big, you know, this is it. It was really that. It was seeing other brothers who went through it and they got their marriages back on track.
Yeah, and if there's any man you've been watching 2 or 3 of my videos, or 10 or 20 or 30, and you have heard enough about confirmation bias as we talk about it. So what is confirmation bias? Confirmation bias is this. It's a few different things, and it can come in a few different forms. But what confirmation bias actually is confirmation bias is a psychological process that relating it to a failed marriage or a failed relationship, even if there's something in the woman that wants to save the relationship. So if she's making statements to you that make you think, is she crazy? When she's talking about, hey, we're going to build a cabin, or we're going to build a flower bed in the spring because it's currently winter, or maybe right now it's the summertime and she's talking about, we're going to go snow skiing, or we're going to go to Disney World for Christmas. Okay, so she's doing that one day, talking about a future. And then the next day she's talking about, now, you know, this doesn't mean we're staying together as husband and wife. And you're like, what? We're back and forth, because that is describing one of the very side effects of confirmation bias. Confirmation bias, in a way, it ties to borderline personality disorder, and a lot of times it's directly tied to post-traumatic stress disorder. And in the program that I teach men to walk in their new leadership, a lot of times you can lead a woman out of those disorders. Why? Because a mental disorder is just that. It's a disorder. And it can be solved just like that if the trauma or the relationship struggles go away. It can alleviate that stress, and that just goes away. She don't need count. I have seen over and over and over a wife of one of my students in counseling for PTSD from past sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and even the counselors is enrolling her that you can never have a great marriage with this man again because he is exaggerating your PTSD, which is true because he's not one of my students. If he's one of my students, he has helped, instead of exaggerating, he is putting calamine lotion on that and helping her get past that. So how do we do that? Well, confirmation bias, though, could be something that she experienced as a childhood trauma. And now she has bias against whoever caused that trauma, and it's being projected on you. It could come from a past negative relationship, a past marriage, and that confirmation bias is projected on you. And it could have 100% come from the relationship you currently have with your soulmate, your lover, your wife, the mother of your children. It could be caused entirely by you and your lack of leadership. Here's the good news, though. It can completely be fixed, and it's easy to fix it. But what is confirmation bias? Confirmation bias is simply negative bias against an individual or a relationship that has ran psychologically so long that through neuroplasticity, we can see the negative thoughts about the individual or the relationship on an MRI, meaning it has become biological. Here's the good news. If your wife has confirmation bias against you and or your marriage, you will end up in game over. She will end up with another man if confirmation bias is not dealt with. The good news is part of what we do in the divorce offers program. And I say part of it because there's so much more that we do, but you've got to get rid of the confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is not just something that we talk about. It's not just psychological. It's also biological. What I mean by that is we teach you how to lead her out of that. And watching YouTube videos is good information. If you're watching this video today and your girlfriend, your lover, your fiance, your wife, the mother of your children, if you guys are in a rough patch, this video can really help you turn that around. If she has confirmation bias, she's going to end up with another man because you're running out of time. And so you got to put time on your side. And if that's where you're at, you will never lead her back into a healthy relationship with you without transformation. And that only happens on the inside because it takes a framework of doing everything correct for the amount of time that it takes her thought patterns to change her brain biologically, which is 7 weeks. YouTube is like a puzzle. We can't piece it all together the right way. And why not? Because sometimes you get stuck and we skip steps because she's a human and you're a human, and you need life coaching sometimes to help you do that. So you joined the program because you started to find out about confirmation bias. You're seeing the signs that confirmation bias exists in your relationship, and you knew that information is not enough. The other program that you joined, the transformation was not addressing the root of your issue, which was the projected confirmation bias, or maybe just confirmation bias that was caused in the relationship. And she was resenting your changes. You're a new student in the program. You're in your first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What surprised you the most about the program once you got started? A lot of you thinking, well, I've got to become the best version of myself if I want my marriage restored. I've got to go change. I've got to go do everything differently. All the stuff that she told me of the reasons she wants out of the marriage, I've got to go change those things. If you've already done all of that, but it hasn't worked, put that in the comments if that's you. Have you become the man that she said she's always wanted, but it's not enough? Maybe you were an alcoholic. Maybe you were a controlling narcissist. Maybe you were a psychopath. Maybe you were verbally abusive. Maybe you weren't intimate with her. Maybe you didn't value her opinion. But now all of a sudden, you do all of those things, but it still hasn't worked. Here's the question. Put in the comments if you have realized that that's not enough. You changing is a beautiful thing, and that's probably a requirement.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be enough to save the marriage if she has confirmation bias.
Yeah.
You've got to lead her to change. You're a new student in the program. You're in your first week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. What surprised you the most about the program once you got started?
Okay, so once I got started, it was honestly the very first few steps, and that was just learning how to communicate in a playful way with my wife, using emojis and everything like that. And I could remember it was like the first day I started using emojis, and I might have been using a little bit too many, but it's okay. She's like, "What's up with all of these emojis?" And I tell her, I'm like, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And she's like, okay. And shoot, we're talking, that was, not too long ago. That was about like just a few months ago. And now she's using emojis every time we talk. She's using emojis. She's using like, and it's just like, I like to see it, in our conversations.
Yeah, because it's the reason it's called emojis is because it's you're conveying emotions to each other. And when you convey emotions to each other, you're building intimacy, which is connection. And what's the Latin derivative of the word is into me see, or we can even say it like this, into me see, which is in the heart. But, I would venture to say that it was probably more than just your emojis, because in the first steps in the program, step 1.1, 1.2, the hidden step 1.3 and 1.4 that we talk about sometimes if that's needed, that emojis is good. The 3-line rule is good because you're communicating in the masculine, which positions you to be the 20-pound bottle of Valium that can't be phased. It positions you to be safe in your communication instead of you being the pressure cooker that used to put pressure on her, because whenever you put pressure on something, it's got to do something to let off the steam. In your example, we know that there was an affair partner that was the pressure relief valve that your pressure caused her to go to let off steam. And this is what the Bible means, where it says, what's intended for your harm, God really has a plan to use for your good. In this case, it could be an emotional affair partner. It could be an enemy of the marriage. It could be a physical affair partner. And so we can actually use those people, those enemies of your marriage, to help restore that. Well, Deborah, how the hell can we do that? Because what we do is we become the 20-pound bottle of Valium. And yes, we use emojis, but we also have a transformation here, which transforms us here, literally a transforming by the renewing of our mind. And when you change these two places and you start to see your wife through new eyes, and you start to understand how to see yourself, the reflection of yourself through her eyes, it changes these two things. And when you change these two things, as you're learning how to communicate different in a real way, not just by Denver or the program giving you things to say, but by understanding what you should say, what you've always missed, maybe your whole life. The Bible says there's power of life and death in the tongue. When you change these two things in building intimacy, it shows you how to speak life into your marriage. And of course, that's going to come out via text message with some emojis, because you can't really convey what you're trying to say without that, right? So it's not just the emojis, it's the words. But true or false? True or false? Every man watching this video today that's heading towards game over, he literally does not believe the statement that I'm about to make, but he could very literally be one text message away from literally turning the train that's heading to game over back to restoration. One text message away.
Yes, I honestly, I definitely believe that, and I believe that because when you're texting, and if you're texting and you're actually taking the steps and you're taking the time to see inside her, like you're taking the time to actually have the intimacy, right? And she's coming up with you with all types of problems, and you're just like, okay, babe, and you take the time to see her, you see those problems, and then you write it out. It's just such a beautiful thing. It almost like calms her down. And it's like I could put my burdens on him, and he'll take it, and he'll like make it so that it's not so bad, for her. No.
Yes.
It's been a couple of times where my wife has reached out. It's very distraught. And all she really needed in that moment was just for me to see and understand and hear her and see where she was coming from. My wife, she was sending these paragraphs. And, sometimes I would have to tell her, this is really interesting. I want to know more about it. Call me, or I'll give you a call in a little bit. Really taking that initiative. Like, I want to hear more about it. For example, I'm a union truck driver, so I can't really text on my phone all the time. She would, and this is recent, she would message me, and she'll have all of this exciting things to say about her new job and everything like that. And I just, wow, babe, that's amazing. I can't wait to hear more about it, and just doing that, just showing that emotion that, through text, it really helps them understand that we do care about them. We absolutely care about them. We absolutely see and value them.
What's so beautiful about what you're saying is this. I truly know for a fact that before you were one of the students of the divorce topic program, that you truly cared about your wife. The only thing that changed though was, I believe that we gave you different eyes. I believe that we gave you different ears, which also transformed your mouth or your fingers via text message,
Yes.
which caused her to feel heard, valued, and seen. True or false?
That's very
Would
true.
would you say that as your wife started feeling seen, heard, and valued, that it also caused her to remove the scales from her eyes to see the real heart of the man that has been in front of her the whole time?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say that. Because once I started to see and hear her, I became more of the pressure relief valve that we were talking about that her
Yes.
third partner was. She wanted to come to me to vent, about her girlfriends or about, work and, everything in between. And I was just like, wow, this is amazing, because for a long time we hadn't had that communication. She didn't feel safe talking to me about a lot of things, so absolutely 10 out of 10. That's so true.
One of the things that it's really, really difficult for probably thousands of men that over time will watch this video is the statement that I'm about to make. You can literally become the pressure relief valve in as little as 7 days. And so what I mean by that is, right now, you've been the one for a long time out of ignorance, putting pressure on your wife and literally pushing her away. You can literally reverse all of that and start re-attracting her back and become the person that she feels safe coming to. And guess what? Even if she comes to you and starts bitching, today, a lot of you, your wife might be coming to you to bitch and tell you what a horrible person you are. And because you're ignorant about how to handle that situation, to use that as an opportunity to make her feel heard, valued, and seen to restore the marriage, what you're doing is you're defending yourself. You got to stop defending yourself. When a man never defends himself, okay, she will step up and start defending you. And the way that you do that is through communication. 100% through communication. Now, don't misconstrue anybody that's watching this. If your wife's filed a legal divorce, I'm not telling you don't get an attorney and legally protect yourself. What I am telling you is stop acting like an emotional bitch when your wife comes to bitch about you to you. Instead, there's a different way. You can make her feel heard, valued, and seen, and you can start the process of seeing yourself from her vantage point or her perspective. And this is what actually restores a marriage. This is what's easy. Trying to get her to work on the relationship and see your point of view on why you guys should save it. Working on the relationship has never worked in the history of the world, and it never will. Well, Jennifer, I don't agree with that. Then why are you watching the video? Because it's not working. And until you start doing something differently, you're stuck on a hamster wheel, my friend. And luckily for all of you watching this, we've got Michael here to say, get off the hamster wheel. Because not only was I doing not working, I joined another program that was teaching me all this stuff to do for me, but it was making my relationship literally worse. It might have made me feel better for a minute, but it was having the opposite effect on my marriage, and it was pushing her further away because she was resenting my changes. So let me ask you this. What specific parts of the program for you had the biggest impact on your mindset or your actions?
It was definitely the backing off your wife, because we talk about putting pressure on our wives. I was always messaging her, always texting her, always asking her like, "Hey, so are you going to be hanging out with your friend?" Just putting so much pressure on her. I didn't take the time to just step back and allow that space to happen. Allow that time to happen.
For anybody listening, I'm not an advocate of a whole lot of space, and I'm definitely not an advocate of no contact. So what
Right.
he's talking about when he's saying let that space happen means that you don't have to like attack her because you're acting like a little bitch and you're so afraid if you don't respond to her in 1 second on a text message, or if you even give her 30 minutes to breathe. That's what we're talking about when we say space, because space, I don't necessarily like that word and the connotation of this industry, because that could be misconstrued in condoning, yeah, you should go get a trial separation or whatever.
Yeah. And honestly, to your point, my wife and I, before I joined the program, we were actually doing a little bit of no contact. We were doing a little bit of kids only. And this program, the program actually is funny. The program um, taught me how to take that interaction with the kids only and make it something bigger, make it actually have a conversation with it, actually uh, to be able to see a little bit more into her. It just kind of, it was almost like a door opening. Oh, we're gonna talk about the kids now. Okay, well, a little bit. I'm gonna be asking you how your day is and everything like that. So
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, because there's a lot of men that have already made some mistakes and maybe even done some things that I would not recommend that they do. But what's done is done. And when you're already in that situation, we literally have a plan to use that, right?
yep,
Because we expect that so many students are going to come into this that are in that situation, which is another reason we do the live coaching, because sometimes we'll go out of step. There's 14 steps to restoration. Sometimes we go to step 7, then we go to step 9, then we go back to step 2. It depends on the unique individual. So I appreciate you literally bringing that up in a way that makes sense for that guy that's thinking, well, that's already where I'm at. No worries. We have a plan for that. So let me ask you this. Did you notice a shift in how your wife responded to you and what changed?
yes, I definitely noticed the shift in how she responded. So when I would send these long paragraph messages, which now I understand it was just me responding as, in a feminine. When I would send those, she would always probably send back like one word responses, or, just like, yeah, whatever. But when I started to respond in a way that was more masculine, more clear, she really appreciated that. And because of that, she would start to send out lengthier text messages. She would send out 2 3 different paragraph text messages, and maybe I didn't, because obviously in 3 lines you can't respond to them all. So it's just a real nice masculine, to the point, this is this is that. And it almost seemed like it piqued her curiosity a little bit more. So she just would text even more, you know? So it was just her responding to me and my transformation. You could see it clear as day.
Yeah, for anybody watching this video, we're literally sort of giving you a free coaching session, and let me help you understand that. So, what Michael is describing is the following. If a woman's text messages are very short, that's her communicating in the masculine. And if your text messages are more than 3 lines, you're 100% communicating in the feminine. So, what's one of the things that you could do? Well, shorten up your text messages. And when you shorten up your text messages, you will probably naturally see her start to lengthen. Well, Denver, I don't know. You don't know my wife. She's asking me to address 3 things, and I need to write a book to make sure I address all of the issues. Your wife doesn't want you to address all of the issues. Watch any love or romance movie prior to 1950 when television still told the truth about how relationships actually work. Women are excited about the chase. They want to pursue in that way. When they communicate with you in long form, that's feminine. And for any of you out there right now that you think your relationship is failing, if your wife or your girlfriend or your lover is still communicating in the long form, you're in a really, really easy place, easier than most, to restore that. If she's communicating in the short form, it's because you're communicating in the long or the feminine. The way that you restore a relationship is you have to have sexual polarity, but the sexual polarity needs to be the man in the masculine, which will cause her to feel emotionally safe to eventually, and I would go so far as to say very quickly, respond in the feminine. Now, she'll test you, but guess what? Even after the relationship is restored, my wife's a relationship coach, and because she's a woman, she is literally wired to even test me. Why? Because that reassures her that I'm still safe, that she's still in a safe place with somebody that's going to protect her. I have a lot of students that their wives are CEOs of major corporations, and there she obviously is going to run that business in the masculine. But when she comes home in her marriage, she wants to be in the feminine, but she's not going to feel comfortable or safe to be in her feminine unless you're walking in the masculine. How do you walk in the masculine? Here. And what comes out of here, where does this come from? What comes out of this? What's in here? Or we could say what's in here, because these two things are the same. And you can't fake it. You cannot fake it. The first 2 or 3 days of the program, you're testing the waters. You could say it's faking it. But after you practice it just a minute, it becomes real because it helps you see yourself. And when you understand how to see yourself in her reflection, you understand how to see her. And when you start seeing her, she feels seen. When she feels seen, she will start seeing you. She will see the real you. She will see that the feelings that you're feeling, the despair, the heartache, where you feel like death, it is truly because you genuinely care about her. Now, what we also do is take the way that you care about her from being selfish to truly making it about her. Because when I'm in depression in a failed relationship, I'm too close to my situation to see my situation. And the reality of it is my depression is stemming from me making it all about me. But we don't do that in a way that condemns you. We do that in a way that empowers you to step up and to step out of that, to take those first steps to restore the relationships. So let's fast forward. Compared to where you were, where was your relationship now compared to where it is today? What's the differences?
The differences are my wife's chasing me. She actually the funny thing is she actually just the other day asked me to send her good morning text messages. That's what she wants to hear. And I'm like, okay, you know. So she's doing more initiating, which is great. We're laughing, we're joking, you know, kissing and all types of stuff, you know.
That sounds very positive, polite,
Yeah.
but especially playful.
Very, very, very playful. Very playful. We tease each other a lot, which is great because this is something that we used to do when we first got together, when everything seemed so easy, and truth of the matter is it is easy. It's just when we're going through such times, we make it harder than what it actually really needs to be, you know. And so my relationship now is definitely more in a space to where we're just both just enjoying each other, you know, wholeheartedly. And now that I have the understanding and the fundamentals to really have that intimacy, and not just in the physical way, but just more in a way where I'm understanding when she's having a rough day. So she needs me to pick up a little bit more slack, you know. And I don't have to ask her to do it. I can see it. I can see her physiology. I can see her out everything, you know. And so it's just like, all right, well, she's having, and this is what taking the time to actually see into your wife, and taking the time to, you know, really, I don't want to say study, but observe your wife and see like what she's doing. And that's just, you have to do that in order to truly build the intimacy and everything like that.
I would say that it's okay to even use the word study. And I'll give you an example. I remember when I first met my wife, we weren't sure that you know what I'm saying? We weren't sure about the relationship. I remember literally, when I first met her, I wasn't ready to start getting serious and start dating again. But I liked her so much, and I didn't want to mess up anything. This is when I first met her. I would literally get to school to pick my kids up about 20 minutes early because I drove to pick my kids up. So I sat in the parent parking lot to wait on my kids to come out to the car. My wife, her son was in elementary at the school right beside it, and she lived right across the street from the school. I would get there 20 minutes early so I could watch her walk across the street to pick up her son because I like to watch her walk. And I would literally study her communication with her son and how she acted. And that helped me understand how to actually get her to like me, to want to date me, and eventually marry me. So there's nothing wrong with the word study. I think studying somebody is a beautiful thing. A lot of what you're describing here is stuff that until I learned all of this myself, I literally didn't know how to not just see my wife, I didn't know how to see other people through the eyes that I now have.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, for my experience of this, and I hear this from the majority of my students that go so far as to share this, is that the tools that are required to be implemented to actually restore a marriage, it does open up your eyes to see your wife. But it also, it's like, have you ever seen that movie with Bradley Cooper called Limitless? If you haven't watched that movie, you should go watch it, because it's literally, it's a movie about what we're doing in the Divorce Hoppers program. In that movie, he finds a drug dealer that gives him a pill called NZT, and he takes this pill, and then all of a sudden, you know, he's already looking at the streets of New York and Manhattan, but when he takes this pill, the colors become more vivid, and people that before, as he's walking past them on the street, were just invisible, now he sees every detail, and he finds the beauty in every interaction, and he sees a butterfly in the tree. And for me, that's what we're doing in this program, is we're teaching you how to find all of those intimate moments and to see the beauty and the things that you've missed, for lack of a better way, selfishly pursuing your calling to step into your anointing of something that you might have not ever even thought possible in your life. And that's not the goal of the program. That's the side effects of the medicine that we're giving you to help you restore your marriage. In other words, the way that we help you restore your marriage opens up your eye to having a much bigger vision for your life a lot of times than what you ever saw to begin with. And I think what's maybe even more beautiful about it is it should slowly start to do the same thing for your wife. And then if there's children involved, transfer a different legacy, deal a different set of cards to your children versus what you were dealt, what I was dealt, and what you were already dealing before we met you. So let me ask you this. How would you say that your role as a husband and a father has changed? Men, if your marriage is in a place where John and Annie's marriage was, where you are facing a divorce, It does not matter if she has a boyfriend. It does not matter if she has avoidant personality or attachment personality. It does not matter if you or her have childhood traumas that you're working through. It does not matter if there's an affair partner, whether that's emotional, physical, or sexual. If confirmation bias exists like it did in John and Annie's marriage, there's a way that you can take the first step today by joining my free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass, where I'm going to take you on the first step in dissolving your problem, which is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is psychological, and with enough time, it becomes biological. But the good news is all of that can be reversed if you know how to do it. I'm going to help you do this in my free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass. My video editor is putting the QR code on the screen right now. You can scan that or visit my website to register for my free live Marriage U-Turn Masterclass at denvergriffin.com/masterclass. Visit that today to take the first step of changing your life. You have a need for speed. Put time on your side because time is probably running out. So let me ask you this. How would you say that your role as a husband and a father has changed?
I'll talk about the father role. It's really funny because now, like when my children, if they're upset or they're throwing, fits or anything like that, I always hear them out. I'm like, all right, okay, I understand. I have a little daughter. She's just such a negotiator is what I would call it. And I would say, okay, sweetheart, I understand. And then she'll be crying, she's upset. I'm like, oh, sweetie, remember, what we have to say when we're upset. And she'll say, I'm happy 3 times.
Ooh,
Which,
I love it.
yeah, yeah.
I still do. I still do that.
Well, I mean, I got it from you. So I tell her, I say to both of my children, hey, if we're upset, we're going to say, I'm happy 3 times. So with that, I've noticed that my children, they have a lot more fun, when they're with me. They're laughing a lot more. You know, I don't want to say that they feel as if they can just get away with anything because that's not true. But they definitely feel as if something were to happen, we could talk to dad instead of not wanting to at all, just we're going to keep it to ourselves. I do ask my son often, hey, how you feeling? How was your school? Everything like that. I want to know, you know, how my kids' days are, and I want to know how they're doing, not only just to the public eye, but how are you guys actually doing? This is something that I didn't really grow up with. I didn't grow up with my parents really trying to see into me, so I definitely want to be different, and not only have the intimacy with my wife, but have the intimacy with my children. Because my wife is seeing me interact this way with my kids, it makes her that much even more attracted to me, because these are also her children. These are also her little mini me's running around as well. And so for her to see me be this way, it's really like transformed her as well, to where she would say something or she would get upset and then she would say, I'm sorry, I know that that's not the energy that you want right now. And I'm like, no, sweetheart, I mean, it's not the energy that I want, but if it's the only energy that you can feel right now, it's okay. We'll take it moment by moment. So just that. It's just being the leader and understanding that the leader kind of sets the standard. We don't really ask for it to be done we don't ask that standard to necessarily be done by the ones that are around us, but we walk in that standard. And because we're walking in that standard, everyone else around us almost has no choice but to walk in it as well, you know?
Yeah, I do. I would like to paraphrase what I just heard you say. You now walk in a level of leadership and intimacy with your children
Mhm.
that when I met you, you were raising children.
Yes.
Today, you are raising adults. And the shift that you made was simply one thing. Now you are building connection and intimacy with your children. They feel that you are safe enough, that you are giving them permission to grow.
Hmm.
You are giving those flowers in your garden permission to blossom.
Hmm.
And the only way that a flower is ever going to blossom in your garden is if it has permission to fail,
Hmm.
fall, and fuck up.
Hmm.
And your children now know that when they fail, they fall and they fuck up, that he is emotionally stable leader that I know if I put my hand out, I'm going to get a hand up instead of him walking in a level of leadership that's normal, which is condemning, criticizing, or complaining.
Yes.
That now, so literally your children are being dealt a new hand of cards with an established legacy, and you're teaching them a level of leadership that is rare.
Yes. Yes.
You're teaching them how to ensure that they have successful relationships themselves. And of course, that's attractive to your wife. Why is it attractive to your wife? Number one, she sees what's happening. So the level of respect is going through the roof. But what you're also doing, how many of you out there watching this video, put this in the comments. If your wife has ever made the comments of, I don't feel like I'm a woman with you. You make me feel like one of your children. I feel like I'm a little girl. I feel like I'm smothered. I feel like I have to get out to find myself. I need to be free. Why is she saying those words? Because with good intentions, you have repeated the cards that you were dealt. What do I mean by that? You have tried to come in and protect your wife from feeling bad or from making mistakes. She never had permission within the marriage to be an adult woman. Adults and children should have the authority and the permission to fail, fall, and fuck up. It's how they step into their calling and their anointing. So for anybody out there right now that you feel like your wife is communicating like an immature 3-year-old, your lack of leadership has contributed to that. But here's the good news. You can change yourself by changing your leadership, by changing what you're thinking, changing how you're feeling. The lie that we've been sold since birth, well, you can't change how you're feeling. I've heard another marriage coach say that. We can't help how we're feeling. Bullshit. Who told you that lie? I remember who told me that lie. And it is a lie from the pit of hell. The Bible actually says, let no unwholesome talk come out of your mouth. Guess what? It was not talking about fuck you. It was talking about some idiot telling you you can't change how you feel. And if you repeat that, that is literally satanic, unwholesome talk. That's what it's talking about. And to that, I say, fuck it. Because my goal and my mission and my anointing is to counteract and dissolve evil. And this is the way that we do it, through communication. Listen, what are you talking about? You get all spiritual on me. I sure am. Because the Bible says that you have the power of life and death in your tongue. Right now, if your marriage is dying, it's because you need to be transformed by the renewing of your mind so that you stop speaking death into the relationships that are important to you. How do you do that? You start speaking life. And if you don't know how to do that, and you've been sitting around asking God for help, maybe this is the boat that you've been praying to come in to save you. And so for anybody right now that your marriage is heading to game over, we have a free resource with limited seats this week called my free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass. The website that you can go take the first step of turning that train around today is denvergriffin.com/masterclass. All right. So in closing, I want you to share anything else that's on your heart that I haven't already asked you about. If there's something else you want to share while you have the floor, you are speaking right now to hundreds and thousands of men who their whole life, the legacy of the way that they had hoped it would turn out, it is going to end. They are literally running out of time. Their wife is done. She doesn't see a path to reconciliation, nor does she want it. She's filed for a divorce, and she has a relationship, affair partner, or there is some severe enemies of the marriage, and it literally looks hopeless. But she's not remarried yet. That man that thinks that he might have a chance of fixing this on YouTube, or that he might wake up tomorrow and the bad dream, the nightmare he's living today, the worst thing he's ever went through in his life that he's going through right now, he thinks maybe I'll wake up tomorrow and just be over, because he doesn't know what the fuck to do. But his time is running out. What would you say to that gentleman, and why would you say it?
Well, the one thing that I would say is that in any fight, you can change your position. So if you feel as if right now there's no hope, there's no there's no way out of it. That's not there. That's not true at all. Great brothers like yourself, Denver, and this program, they'll really teach you and show you that there's absolutely a way out. And then in our members only, the Facebook, our group, where we have my other brothers who are going through, some of the same things, just the camaraderie that's in our group, the the wins that we share. We just all support each other. We all support each other. We all help each other. We've all been there in some way, shape, or fashion. We've all been there. And so, like, and now I have brothers who are, we're all 1% men. I have brothers who, we talk on the side. We're awesome. How you doing? Everything like that. And I think that it is imperative for any man to have that type of camaraderie and that type of support system, because without that, I do truly feel that, yeah, you're always gonna feel like you're in a state of helplessness, hopelessness. So I would just say, if you're on the edge, if you're thinking about doing it, don't wait. Don't be afraid to take that step. You have nothing to lose. As far as I'm concerned, you've already lost it. So why not give it a shot?
Yeah, you literally have everything to gain, and you actually could take control in your own destiny. If you're somebody that's sitting there and you're praying for God to restore your marriage, the Bible even says faith without works is dead. Why would God show up and do it all? And if anybody else that's ever made this comment, which is just bullshit, I just give my marriage to God. Newsflash: God never built the return desk like Walmart has a return desk. God has not built a return desk for your Walmart. There is no return desk for your desk. So he doesn't want your marriage back. He gave it to you. That's even biblical. You need to level up and get out of your bullshit and do what needs to be done to take care. Now, I am a recipient of an instantaneous supernatural miracle that's medically documented. If anybody believes in angels and miracles and God, it's me, because I'm a recipient of an instantaneous miracle. But I will tell you this, I didn't even get that miracle until I stepped up in obedience to follow some instructions that he gave me. So here's what I mean. You mentioned some Facebook groups. There's a lot of people that heard that and they're like, oh, I'm in one of those Facebook groups. Let me tell you this. If you're not in our Facebook group as a student, so we have two Facebook groups. We have a Facebook group for non-students and we have a Facebook group for students. All of our students can talk to each other. The Facebook group for non-students, we started for simply the purpose of putting YouTube videos on there to help people. Let me tell you the difference in the two Facebook groups. The Facebook for students, it's winners helping and encouraging winners to win. That's why it's called Iron Sharpens Iron. Iron is literally sharpening iron. Now, let me tell you what's happening in the non-student group. And let me tell you, the exact same thing is happening in every single Facebook group that's called Marriage Support, Restoration, Single Dads Helping Dads. They're all saying, we're here to support you. Let me tell you what 100% of them are. It is losers helping losers feel good. Brother, I'm sorry you're going through it. I'm praying for you. Losers helping losers feel good about losing. And every single one of their marriages are ending. And occasionally you'll have one person, but by some fluke, his marriage got restored. And he can't tell you how. And it's just because his wife changed his mind because her boyfriend left her. But he's the exception to the rule. But the majority of them, no marriages are being restored. So why am I being so crass and harsh in this? Here's why. The Christian groups in particular, and I'm a Christian, are losers helping losers feel good about losing. If you're in there putting all of your faith in God to restore your marriage, nothing wrong with that, but faith without works is dead. And if your wife has the wall up and you've tried everything to get it down, you've took a sledgehammer to the wall, a pickaxe, and it got thicker. You tried to scale over it. You got the rope climbing equipment, all of that stuff, the rappelling. The wall got taller. Even in the Bible, when God told the Israelites to march around the walls of Jericho and he would bring them down, he did not say, go sit on your ass and look up at the wall and expect me to do everything when you're not doing anything, because they had to exercise their faith. God said, march around the wall. and be obedient in my timing. Means timing is important to God. If she's got a wall up and you want it down, you've got to know where the road is to march around the wall. You've got to know the timing of how to march. And the one instructions that the Israelites were given when they were marching around the wall, the leader of the pack, the one instructions that he gave them when they were marching? He said, as you're marching around this wall, don't say a word. Why? Because he knew that as they were marching, they would be thinking, bruh, like, I don't know if this is going to work. Now, the first 2 or 3 days, everybody was excited, but this wall was around a city. It was hot. Camels poop and pee. It was stinking. And so by day 3, they're tired, probably getting dehydrated. And they're sitting here thinking like, really? Is the wall cracking? The ground ain't shaking. The paint's not even chipping off the rock. He knew that they wouldn't believe it. But God said, he told the leader to get them quiet. Now, we don't know that God said that, but we do know that that's what they were told. We do know the Bible says they were given instructions to don't say a word. Why? Because there's power of life in the tongue, of life and death in the tongue. And so if your marriage is heading to game over today and the wall is getting higher, the reason it's getting higher and it's getting wider is because you're opening your mouth and you're making the wall bigger because you're speaking death into your prayers because you don't know what you don't know. And for a lot of you, if you've went to your preacher, God does not call the qualified. He qualifies the called. If your preacher, your best friend, your counselor, or your coach, if they have never been in your situation and taken that situation to where you want to take yours, they have not been qualified. denvergriffin.com/masterclass. Make the U-turn today. And if that's where you're at and you know that you want to bring the wall down, my video editor is going to put up at the end of this video the next video that will help you understand, take the first step of bringing the wall down, just like Michael did here. Men, if your marriage is in a place where John and Annie's marriage was, where you are facing a divorce, it does not matter if she has a boyfriend. It does not matter if she has avoidant personality or attachment personality. It does not matter if you or her have childhood traumas that you're working through. It does not matter if there's an affair partner, whether that's emotional, physical, or sexual. If confirmation bias exists like it did in John and Annie's marriage, there's a way that you can take the first step today by joining my free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass, where I'm going to take you on the first step in dissolving your problem, which is confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is psychological, and with enough time, it becomes biological. But the good news is all of that can be reversed if you know how to do it. I'm going to help you do this in my free Marriage U-Turn Masterclass. My video editor is putting the QR code on the screen right now. You can scan that or visit my website to register for my free live Marriage U-Turn Masterclass at denvergriffin.com/masterclass. Visit that today to take the first step of changing your life. You have a need for speed. Put time on your side because time is probably running out.